Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is a platform for veterans, sponsor supporters, volunteers, for
And
us
chefs.
and chefs. Chef JP, he's
Yeah.
a veteran.
Don't
Coast
don't
Guard.
forget the chefs.
No, Coast Guard. He's a Coast Guard vet, and he's my co-host. And it's great to have you, Chef. It's great to be here in the
Yeah.
studio together this time. We've been working on the studio for some time, trying to get the internet up and running, doing some cool things. And this is the first time we've been able to utilize the equipment for a couple months now.
Yeah, and both in the studio at the same time. And it works.
Yeah,
Isn't that great?
it's great. It's
I
great.
mean, just perseverance, man. Just keep doing it until it's right.
Yeah, we got an awesome show for you today. A matter of fact,
Excellent show.
We got Captain Galvin Kelly on deck, retired Army vet, and we're going to get into Chef JB Chef of the Year event that we went to this week, and
that was really amazing.
Congratulations to you, Chef.
Thank you.
Really good stuff. But
only took me 54 years to get it. So
54 years, 13 nominations. On the 13th nomination, Chef of the Year.
I finally got it.
But hey, Hall of Famer. Who's now it's the little things that count.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many awards, but it's good to hit another one on the bucket list. So, but it's good, I mean, it shows I'm doing something.
Yeah, and I look forward to talking about that whole event with you, because it was a lot going on in my mind about it. So it'll be fun to talk about it.
Yeah.
About it. But hey, we'll get to Captain Kelly right now, and he's an author, retired Army vet. Hey, Captain Kelly, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, brother.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. I guess this is part of my bucket list. Be on a couple of podcasts.
Okay.
So, thanks for.
Well, then you're getting yours too this week. So,
right.
Hey, everybody's cashing out. That's good.
Yeah, because Chef JB is talking about bucket list too, and now you are too. I mean, I'm the young guy here, so I'm not really on the bucket list yet, but I'm hitting them. I'm hitting all these bucket lists. It's great to see you.
I'll send you my bucket list at the end of the show.
Hey, that sounds good, Captain Kelly. Hey, feel free to talk about your story. Why what was it that inspired you to join the military? What was it that got that going? You're an author now. You've done some things. Part of a great group of authors that come together on a weekly basis or a couple of weeks every once in a while and talk about things. So you got a really cool story, and I think there's a lot of people in my audience, looking at ordering the books, or trying to write books or do something of that nature and get their information out there. So
yep,
it's great to talk to you, sir. Feel free to talk about
it. Thank you. Well, around about 1974, 75, I graduated from high school, and one of my friends in high school that we palled around and played sports together, and he came up to me and says, "Hey, you want to go on a long camping trip?" And I went, "Where?" And he said, "To Europe." I went, "How are we going to do that?" He says, "We're going to join the Army." And so we did.
Long camping trip. I've heard it called a lot of things, Captain. That is unbelievable.
So we joined together, the old buddy program, right? But we did go through basic and AIT together, and I enlisted for 4 years. Had to get the bonus, and went to Germany for 3 of those years. Played in the infantry for 3 years in Erlangen, Germany, as a part of the 1st Armored Division, 1st Battalion, 46th Infantry, the professionals. And when I left Germany, my wife and I, she didn't like the Army. I went, okay. So I thought I would transition back to my what I was doing before then. I was working in a hospital as kind of a hospital orderly type, and so I was going to pursue an education in the medical field, nursing. So upon leaving service, I enlisted in the Army National Guard in California, the California Guard, and I joined a medical unit where I was able to become a medic. And but it didn't really last very long as a weekend warrior, because Reagan had come in power, and he started beefing up the military. The active guard reserve forces were brought into the mix, and I was a guardsman for about 8, 9 months when I was approached and said, "Hey, you just came off active duty. We need an operations and training NCO." And so I jumped back on active duty in the AGR program, where I, was a medic for a while, and then, to try to pursue some promotions and whatnot, had to go back into combat arms, and was in a combat surprise company with the 4th of the 160th Infantry. And then I was told, "Hey, you need to go to OCS." So went to OCS and uh, came out of that as a signal officer. And fortunately, I got picked up in the signal battalion, where I was the operations officer for 3 years, and then was approached and said, you have a medical background. We need a medical officer to do something. Do you mind branch transferring? And so I did. I branch transferred and became a medical service officer. So I'm dual branched in both Signal Corps and Medical Service Corps. Although I tend more towards the technology side. I like, computers and databases and information technology. But after the the election of President Clinton, and we had the peace dividend because of what happened in Europe with the Berlin Wall. They couldn't get people out fast enough, could they? The downsized military, and you could kind of see the handwriting on the wall. So I was able to work on a degree in healthcare administration in order to prepare myself for life after active duty. And I was able to do that so that upon retirement, when I hit my 20, I was able to go into the medical field as a healthcare administrator. We had moved to Georgia. My wife was still in the Guard at the time. I had gotten divorced from the first one back in 81, 82. But my wife, who I live with today, 39 years, she was
excellent.
as operating room nurse, and and she was also in the Guard. So there's an understanding of what the military requirements are, and I think that's what happened with my first wife, is that she didn't understand the commitment. So anyway, we relocated to Georgia. She was still in the Guard with Georgia, and I was able to get a job at the Georgia War Veterans Home. It's in Milledgeville, Georgia. It's 3 nursing homes and an assisted living facility on a state campus. And what was happening was that the state was running those facilities. The Department of Veterans Services in Georgia wanted to look at privatizing the management of those homes. And they did a feasibility study and said, hey, we can save a lot of money by bringing in a civilian contractor to manage these homes. But the VA subsidizes the veterans that live there with aid and attendance or pensions or what have you. And so they required that at least one state employee be on campus to monitor the private contractor. And so I did that for a number of years as basically the contract monitor for the State Department of Veterans Services. And I was, like I say, a contract monitor. We monitored nursing care, got a lot of complaints about food now and then, those kind of things. But we also worked very closely with the veterans benefit counselors of the State Department of Veterans Services to help guys get their benefits and whatnot, so they could live in the home. Eventually, military service catches up to you as far as the aches and pains. And the environment in Georgia with humidity and heat and whatnot, both my wife and I were kind of saying, "Oh, gee, we need to go to, perhaps, better climate." Um, our daughter at the time was out there in Las Vegas, and our other daughter was in Long Beach, California. So we thought, well, maybe we'll move back to California, but I said, I'm not sure about California. We left there in, '95 because of various political things that were going on there. And so we relocated to Green Valley because we had some friends here that said, hey, this is a good, safe place. We have a community-wide recreation system of social centers and swimming pools and whatnot, tennis courts, pickleball courts, you name it. And so that's what we did. Came out here.
This is Green Valley, Arizona, right?
Right, Green Valley, Arizona.
It's a retirement community.
Yes. Yeah, you
Or a
have to be
senior
at least.
community.
You have to be at least.
55.
50 or 55. I forget now.
Okay.
My wife met the criteria. I didn't. I was only 48 when I retired the first time in 2005 or 2004. But so we came out here and kind of just got into volunteering. I volunteered at the VA for a while, just pushing wheelchairs around. American Legion post. We've got 2 of them here in Green Valley, and I worked there doing things like cooking. We started doing prime rib on Saturday nights. I was working with a fellow that was behind the bar, and we would serve 80 meals of prime rib, 3 or 4 times a year. So I'm with you, chef.
Okay.
I've got some
nothing
stories.
better than prime rib if it's
But
done well.
I had almost 10 years in Georgia, so and I also went to the Kansas City Barbecue Society, and
Oh yeah, we were
became a
talking
chef,
about
became a judge. So,
Yeah.
but that was a while ago. So I like
Yes.
to do ribs. I like to do smoke cooking. So anyway,
Do you have a small smoker?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I do.
I'm
And
with you.
it's electric, but I've
Yeah.
got a little chimney on the side that I load up. So
Yes.
rather than the
With
tray,
pellet?
pulling the tray,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so I
No,
load
I
up
got
that.
yeah. I gotcha. I got a Big Boss electric at home,
Mhm.
and I just put pellets in it, and it's automatic. And when you're doing brisket for 12 hours, you put it on, you put the thermometer in, and it
That's right.
comes right to my phone when it's done 12 hours later, or 13, whenever it hits that magic, 195. It's
Ding.
done. Yeah. It tells me, and I go pull it out. I don't have to mess with it. Just don't run out of pellets.
So anyway, this just around town here from 2004 till 2008. Volunteering at the Legion post and at the VA, and I got involved with the our woodworking group, which is part of the Green Valley Recreation system I told you about. I think they've got like 150 different clubs, the Woodworkers Club, and so I learned a lot of woodworking, which led up to getting a phone call from HRC Army saying, "Hey, can you come back in?" And I said, "I've been retired for 13 years. What are you talking about?" Well, the surge of forces in the Operation Iraqi Freedom, I guess, created a number of holes around the service, and they said, "Well, with your Signal Corps background, we could use you in some electronic warfare communication frequency planning." We were having a problem with roadside IEDs that were triggered by cell phones, and so
Yeah.
they had a call to try to manage those frequencies better and also block them as necessary. And so I was working on that. I said, okay. But interestingly, before they told me about that, they said they wanted me to go to Guantanamo Bay. And I said, what's in Guantanamo Bay? That's Army. They said, well, it's at the prison. We need an intelligence analyst. And I said, I'm Signal Corps and I'm Medical Service Corps. Which one you want? And they said, well, it's authorized up to major. And I said, hey, let's go. I used to dive when I was in Laguna Beach, scuba diving. So
Yeah.
They got me.
Yeah.
And then
Fish.
and then so about the couple 3 months later, I'm looking for some orders, and they said, well, it turns out you have to be a major. I said, well, I was gonna be a major before I retired. No, we can't do that. They were pretty solid. You got to be a major already. I went, well, okay. He says, but I got you a spot with First Corps when they go into Iraq as the as the MNCI, command. And I said, where's Baghdad? Yeah. I said, well, I already live in the desert. And he says, well, good. Then your acclimatization won't take very long.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what the heck? By then, my wife and I were already kind of in that zone of, let's go. They said they need some help. They gave me a personal invitation. How do you say no to that stuff? So that's kind of what it boiled down to. But it got put off. I was going to go that November, and then it was going to be January. I flew up to Fort Lewis, where the First Corps headquarters is at, and I met with the people I was going to be the electronic warfare officer, serving. And I got with them and, trying to, coordinate and all that good stuff. And but eventually, when I got over there, and I checked in with the colonel that I had met in Fort Lewis, and it's like he didn't even know me. He says, "Oh, we don't need that anymore." I went, "Okay, so where am I going?" Here, so and so will help you. And I said, "Okay." I got shunted over to a cell called Key Leader Engagement, and that's when they said, "We heard that you were also a Medical Service Corps officer." I said, "Yeah, I could do that too." He says, "Well, we're going to do these key leader engagements where we send out a team, to a little tribal town or whatnot, and set up things like, law enforcement and, sick call, those kind of things." Okay,
Right.
let's work it. That lasted a couple of days, and then they said, we're not going to do that anymore." Okay, now what? And that's when they said, well, you're going to go into the Joint Operations Center. I said, okay, one of the cells, a medical service cell or comms cell or something like this. Well, it was the C3 operations cell. And I tell you what, that was some nasty stuff, because all we did 12 hours a day was read SIGACs, significant activity reports that came in. And the SIGACs would be looked at, evaluated against the commander's essential elements of information. Did it meet a certain threshold? For example, if there was a mortar round that went off, how close was it to friendly forces? If it was within a certain amount of space, it became something that was reportable. If it was too far away, we didn't report it. But everything that happened there, became some kind of significant activity that you had to read. You had to read it thoroughly. You had to evaluate it against that criteria to say, all right, is this something that meets the criteria or crosses that threshold, and now becomes a PowerPoint presentation. So that's why we became PowerPoint Rangers. That's all we did, PowerPoint. ad nauseum. Um, and we had, significant events that, where coalition forces were killed, and we would have EOD reports that came in, and we'd have to sift through the EOD reports and the EOD images of, what transpired. And after a while, it just really kind of takes toll on you. There were times I thought, send me out on an MRAP with a gun so I can shoot back, because there wasn't anything you could do when you read about, the mayhem and the atrocities that were happening with the Shia and clerics and the Sunnis getting, there was a Muqtada al-Sadr would have a prayer meeting every Friday night, almost on cue after his prayer meeting. There'd be a suicide bomber in the market that blew up. And so we knew that on Saturday morning, we'd be doing a PowerPoint on that, how many people were killed and whatnot. And it wears you down. But fortunately for me, is that I wasn't there very long. That when President Obama came over and said, hey, we're going to turn this stuff back over to the Iraqis. We're going to start downsizing. And I just said, why am I here? After being out for 13 years, there was this big rush to, get people like me in there and out of my comfort zone where I was fat, dumb, and happy at home. But I came across quite a few people that, they might have been a specialty here, but they didn't work in that specialty. They worked over there. But it was an interesting time, and it was great experience. And excuse me, but I came back, and the transition back, getting back into life here, it had its difficulties. I spent some time at the VA going through it and working those things out. 10 years later, in 2019, well, first my wife had a stroke in 2015, so I became a full-time house husband and caregiver for, after that. And, we got her back to a point where, she could be independent around the house. And, but in 2019, she got a diagnosis of cancer, breast cancer. So I knew we were going to be stuck at home more so than we had been. And that's when I decided to write the book. Because I had a friend in the wood shop, a Vietnam vet, who wrote basically a memoir of his time in, excuse me, in Vietnam. And I said, hey, I got to do something. And he guided me on. He said, write it, and fictionalize it if you need to. Write down the things that are true. Make it about yourself. Change your name. And so that's what I did. So during 2019, I wrote the book, and I was able to get Kohler Publishers to publish it. That was they gave me the go-ahead in November 2019, and they said it's going to take about 6 to 8 months. And so next summer, 2020, was when it was going to be published. And of course, what happened right after 2020 started? We had COVID, and which lasted a couple of years, which kind of crimped my ability to market and promote the book, in person. And I wasn't, set up with the Zoom stuff at that time. I did a little Skype calling when I was in Operation Iraqi Freedom with the wife. But anyway, that's what kind of led me into writing the book. I guess the other thing that was a little bit traumatic is I had a disc go out in May of 2020. And so try to get into the VA and get some inpatient surgery done during COVID. You couldn't. So I was kind of put off for a while. I couldn't feel my hands. And but the doc said I'll do it outpatient, so I was able to go in, get it done, and then come back home and recoup at home. Fortunately, had one of my daughters came in and helped out. And I guess one of the things that was really I was really very pleased about. I had had some correspondence with General Petraeus about my book, and he said, "You want me to read it?" Duh, of course. He did, and he wrote a good review. And I was sitting in my hospital bed in my spare bedroom when I got the email from him saying, "Yeah, I'd like to read your book. Can you get it to me?" So uh, that was the pinnacle of this whole book thing, was getting General Petraeus to read it and give me a good review on it. So that was 2019. And over time, I thought, I'd really like to. I think this has the good mechanics of a screenplay. And I've thought about it, and thought about it, and finally, over the last couple of years, I started putting it down, reading the books on how to write a screenplay. There's a local guy here in Tucson who's a writer, director, um, author, etc. And he's helped me on some of the mechanics of formatting and whatnot. So that's where I am today, trying to get the screenplay into somebody's hands. I've put it into a few some film festivals that also review scripts, and so far, 2 out of 3, I've either been selected for the festival or achieved like a semi-final status. So happy about that. I'm still a caregiver for my wife. Unfortunately, right now she's in the hospital, but she's doing better. And so I've got a couple days at home alone. I'm going to be heading up there right after our podcast today. So that's kind of a snapshot of Kelly Galvin since '75.
Hey, that's an amazing stuff, Captain Kelly, for sure. I enjoyed just listening to you. I know I've only met you, a couple weeks back, but I met you because you were also in a writing group. And do you only have the one book, or do you have another book as well?
I've got a couple that we self-published. And in fact, one of them is I'm working on a screenplay for it. It's called Symbiote. Um, my wife and I actually wrote it back in right after 2002, 2003. It's about HIV, and at that time, HIV was a death sentence.
Yes.
And I said,
Right.
well, what would it be like if HIV in my book turned out to be a beneficial virus, that it had evolved to be able to live within the human body and be beneficial to the human body instead of killing it? Because if you think about it, when you get some kind of really bad disease, if it always kills off the host, at some point the disease is going to die too. So we made this, the premise was that the virus was evolving in order to live within the human body. So that's the premise of that book. But the writers group is military and law enforcement. Some friends and colleagues from the 40th Infantry Division belong to it. General Gravitt, Lieutenant Colonel McBrearty, John McBrearty, Mac.
Yep.
Excuse me. There's a couple other people, and we meet every couple of months by Zoom, and we hope to. We've got a couple of people that are interested in writing, and so we're going to try to show them where the landmines are and where the clear path is to market, promote, and particularly with podcast, is kind of replacing the table in Barnes and Noble, to sign your book and hand it out. I mean, you still need to do that too. But if you want to reach a wider audience, you got to do it on a podcast.
Yeah, it's interesting. This podcast. I wasn't necessarily going to be a podcaster, but Brian Colburn from behind the
Yeah.
scenes here, sitchradio.com, he talked me into it and said, "Hey, you need to be a podcaster because you have all these resources, all these people, your story, helping veterans, doing all these different things. It's so important to have a voice somewhere somehow. And this is kind of cool that we have this ability to get it out, and for you to come on and talk about your book. And you know, there's so many interesting books out there, so many interesting concepts, and as well as the stories from Iraq and the different things and beyond that, whatever whatever it is that you want to write about is super going to be, it's going to be your thing, and you can write about it. I was like, hey man, maybe I need to write a book, but I went right to the podcast, and it's easier for me to talk than it is for me to write. And so my legacy is going to be the podcast, not necessarily, telling my story in a book.
Amen.
But I think, it's really awesome that you guys come together. I thought it was really great to be a guest speaker at your book writing club and to be right there. And Colonel Mack wrote, a book about our experience here on the podcast. And it was just such an incredible thing. And then for you to hit me up and say, hey, can I get on here? And then one of my buddies calling me up and saying, hey, how do I promote my book? How do I get these questions? And I'm like, hey, let me give you a 10-minute segment. Come on my podcast and talk about your book. And that goes out to the audience and you, Captain Kelly, as things progress and your story progresses and you want to come on here and say, hey, I'm going to be at Barnes and Noble, wherever, but I also have this book and that book going on. It's just a reminder to people. Feel free to come on here for the 10-minute segment that I want to put out for everybody every week. It's just like, hey, if you want to get on here, we want to be able to promote those great things that people are doing. And the story continues. It's like, hey, I wonder what that guy's doing that was on your podcast, episode 2 or 3, whatever it might be. And so it's really cool that you're on here telling your story.
There's an organization called Veterans in Media and Entertainment, and if there are people out there that want to, they're in California or anywhere really, it's a good organization to belong to. I've put some things on I posted online with VME a couple of times, and I've gotten a lot of response back from that regarding both the book and this screenplay. So someone just getting out of service and is in the Los Angeles area, Veterans in Media and Entertainment is a place to look if you're interested in that. And it's not just actors and actresses, but the whole gamut of support people, running cameras and catering and you name it. Another plug, my sister, Jody Galvin, is a retired LA City attorney. And a number of years ago, she founded the CVJP. And for the life of me, and I've just gone blank on it. California Veterans Project. CV.
That's right.
It's okay.
We'll let you find it as you go through that. Hey, when you talk about your screenplay, go ahead if you got it.
Community Veteran Justice Project, and she started as a lawyer to help veterans who had come afoul of the law, to help them with, hey, here are the benefits that California gives you as a veteran to help, to protect you. And so it started out with advising veterans who were, impacted by justice issues. And but it's expanded to, a full-fledged, kind of one-stop shop. You can go in there and they can help you with your, getting benefits from the VA, or if you're involved with, law enforcement or the justice system in any way. So,
see, that's an important thing, because there's so many of my veterans come to me with like, hey, where can I find a resource for a law issue that I need to handle? And I think that's such a key thing.
Yeah, cvjp.org.
Awesome. Thanks for that plug again.
Yeah.
And Captain Kelly, when you talk about your screenplay, is it being utilized or in colleges, or what's going on with your screenplay right now? If you can brief that.
Well, it's I've got it uploaded to a website called Film Freeway, and Film Freeway, you can join for free, and you can upload projects like films, screenplays, or pilots, anything involved in that industry. And then as you and they have a database of what they call festivals, film festivals, writing festivals, book festivals, you name it. And most of these festivals are now using Film Freeway as the portal for them to go to and grab your project and use it. So you go to Film Freeway, upload your project, and then you can browse the different festivals and say, oh, I want to submit to that one. When you submit, it then creates that submission for you, and the festival has access to it so that they can read it or view it or whatnot. And that's in fact, I was telling Johnny Mack about it because that's where I found out about a book festival that for military books through Film Freeway. So that's where it
Film
is.
Freeway,
And
huh?
Film
Yeah.
Freeway, and the until and of course, I guess producers and directors and whatnot, people that are want to produce a movie, they could go there and read scripts or see some of these film scripts or film shorts. That sometimes people just put up a short, but so it's there, and I've entered, I don't know, probably another 8 or 9 different festivals that go on throughout the year, and hopefully garner some more status as far as being selected, or hopefully win, and catch someone's eye for a firsthand experience from a little different era, because 2008 2009 was a while ago.
Yeah, it seems like it shouldn't be, because I mean I got blown up in 2006, and so far away from now. Yeah, the time has really gone by. Hey, Captain Kelly, we only got a couple more minutes, but
Okay.
and then with you, and then Chef, you got any questions for him? How you doing with it?
Is your wife in a VA hospital now, or is she in a local
No,
hospital?
no, she's in a local hospital.
Okay.
She's retired, but all of her service was mostly in the Guard,
Okay.
and so she didn't have enough compatible time for the VA benefit.
Ah,
If you don't,
okay.
I think when I joined, I think 6 months was the minimum active duty
Yes.
time, or now I think it's
181
2
days.
years.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
she was recruited as a nurse, and so she went right into the officer corps. No basic
Yeah.
training other than she went to officer basic for nurses or whatever. But all of her
Yeah.
time was National Guard, or she would go on short little tours of 2 or 3 weeks here. She did some time over at Landstuhl on what they called a key personnel upgrade tour back in the 80s. And so she never had enough qualifying
Real
VA.
active. Yeah.
Yeah.
Qualifying time. Okay.
So
So yeah, and it's called Film Freeway.
Film Freeway.
Film Freeway. I've got a goddaughter, and she's my grandniece, and she's going to UNLV right now to do films and stuff. She wants to be a producer, production, a director, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. So, I mean, that's great. Yeah, she won a 4-year scholarship. So, God bless her. She's from the Ukraine originally.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Well, there's a software product called Fade In, which is
okay.
screenwriting software. It's not very expensive, and
Okay.
that's what I use. But Film
Yeah.
Freeway is where you post it and interact with all these different festivals.
Yeah, I used to do a show here at the. We had a radio show, Forgotten Promises, and we had a Vietnam veteran, Marine Corps, and he became an author, J. Clifton Slater, and he does historical fiction, mostly around uh, the Roman Empire that time, and now he's doing space odysseys. um, what a change, but it's all good. I mean, he's got several books out. I'm going to let him know
Hmm.
when I see him about the authors, the military authors. That's great.
And to get
The
involved with your groups. And Captain Kelly, if you could explain, obviously you got the writing group. If anybody wants to get involved with that, if anybody wants to find you, how does that how that they can obviously find all these things through my podcast, but if
Mhm.
you want to explain any of that, that'd be great.
If they want to get in touch with me, my website for my book is powerpointranger.com with a hyphen between PowerPoint and Ranger.
And you
PowerPoint
can see that in the show notes, just for the audience.
ranger.com. And I've got a contact page up there and be happy to, get them in touch with whoever, or, just, shoot the breeze. Uh, the, I wanted to mention this one thing about my book, PowerPoint Ranger, My Iraq War Logs. And I called it My Iraq War Logs because when I started writing it was based on, in 2010 is when they finally got Sergeant Manning, who had released all of those, um, those secret files to WikiLeaks. And at the time they were called the Iraq War Logs or the Afghanistan War Logs. And I had just come back, and I'm going, what the hell is this? And so I went on WikiLeaks, and I started looking stuff up, and I went, I wrote that. That's my PowerPoint. I mean, he'd stolen that stuff and stuff from Afghanistan, and so I was trying to tie it in with that scenario of the security leak, and so I added that. That's the part that I added to the book, is that I came across Manning during my time in Iraq when I actually didn't, but that's the dramatic part you got to put in the book, I guess, to
Get people, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the cross reference to that is such a cool thing. So thanks for sharing with us
Yeah.
that Captain Kelly.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Any last words, sir?
Hey, the motto of retired army is still serving, and it served me well by trying to continue to serve. Whether it's a Legion post, VFW, go down to your local VA, keep yourself in the game, so to speak.
Yeah,
That's it.
we have servant hearts around here, that's for sure.
Very great advice, sir. And
Yeah.
and I look forward to seeing you in the future and here updating any of your stories and any of that stuff. So you're always welcome to come on the show. Just let me know and we'll work.
Same here. As if my script does well, I'll be back on to say, hey, we got another festival.
Hey, that's awesome. Thanks, Captain Kelly. We'll see you later. Hey, Chef, it's time for Chef JB's Kitchen and all this great stuff about
my time. Really?
Yes, sir. What you got going on? And I definitely want to talk about you being Chef of the Year in the Las Vegas area. Talk about the mecca of food and entertainment here.
Yeah, this has always been major leagues of my profession. And, I came here in 89. I finally got here. I tried for 8 years and couldn't even break in. And they opened up the Mirage in 89. And like 8 months later, they opened up the Excalibur, and they were hiring a lot of people. The Excalibur was. And I knew a chef that was a sous chef, and they asked him to come over and if he knew anybody. So he called me, and they brought me in as assistant executive chef, and that's how I got to Las Vegas. So, I started playing in the major leagues at the Excalibur, where we were feeding 32,000 people every day. Everything was in-house. We didn't lease out any food or beverage. It was all done in-house. And then I wasn't the executive chef there, and I was a certified executive chef. So I moved to the Sands Expo and got to do 4 Comdexes, usually around between 500 and 600,000 meals in 5 days. So I'm a production chef. I like 800 employees and just chaos. it's 16-hour days back to back to back for 5 days, and then you're off for 3 or 4 days sleeping.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the shows here are phenomenal. My wife, I'm really fortunate. She works for Circus du Soleil, so we get to see a lot of the Cirque shows. Not as many as in the past, but we still get to see quite a few. And I've seen them all 2 or 3 times anyway. So, we went and saw Awakening, great show. CSN now is College of Southern Nevada. It's one of the only
College of Southern Nevada. Just keep
Yeah.
that CSN. And I was trying to keep that in my mind too. And
Yeah.
that's where we went for the dinner.
where they have a gourmet restaurant there called Russell's, and
Russell's,
they do
great place.
that's the gourmet and the French club, the gourmet club. The students in those clubs service Russell's, and we went there, and I mean, they put on a display that was unbelievable.
It was
I
phenomenal.
mean,
It was phenomenal. And the students are right there. They're right
Yeah.
next. I mean, Russell's is the restaurant, but all the kitchen student stuff is right there. That's what it's that's
Well,
what it's about.
the pedigree there, Chef Jill and Chef Steve and Chef John Metcalf and Chef Ivy, they're all like past Chef of the Years. I met John Metcalf when he was on their culinary team, junior culinary team, went to the Olympics and scored a silver. I mean, it's just phenomenal, the dedication and the focus that those young people had to go and do the rigors that's held in Frankfurt, Germany. And I mean, it's just so intense. I mean, you go in there and you can cut the air with a knife, because everybody's competing and working at things. It's phenomenal. And these kids, I call them kids. I'm 74. Everybody's a kid almost. You're a kid. So anyway, these kids were like, they're just striving all the time to be better and to excel at culinary arts and the food. And, they live in one of the best places to do it, Las Vegas. I mean, you see
Definitely.
a lot of the famous chefs on TV. Guy Ferrero, he went to UNLV here, and then he won and got his show on the Food Network. And just a lot of people here. Robert Irvine, he's another one. He can take something with nothing and feed 5,000 people, 10,000 people. It doesn't bother him. I can walk into somebody's kitchen and just start, if I have to, I just look around and start putting food together. That's my forte.
And I know lots of veterans that want to be chefs and cooks. And I know you're helping some of these veterans get into the process, understanding
it and see how I've got one now that is Adam Jacobs. He's been student chef of the year. He's won a couple of scholarships. There's a lot of scholarship money out there. And, eventually I'd like to put a chef school together, but, I'm getting older. But
yeah,
you won't
if
be
able
it's
to
meant
do it.
to be, it's
Yeah.
meant to be.
You can't do it yourself in this industry.
No.
Because I mean, as much as I was able to see from going to your dinner, it was just such a spectacular time. And all the old, chef of the years too, there's a lot of guys back to the date, and it dates back to how long? Do you remember?
1970 was the first chef of the year dinner here. That's 56 years old.
And And you've been cooking now for how long?
54 years.
54 years. And it says it on his certificate. It was like
Yeah.
54 years. I was like, does that mean he's like 54 years old or 54 years of being a chef? And so I'm like,
Yeah.
way to be a chef born 54 years ago.
And you know what?
That's your chef's birth.
No. You know, and at 21 years old, I got out of the Coast Guard, and I really liked to cook. The last probably 9 or 10 months or about 9 months that I was in the Coast Guard, our cook at our motor lifeboat station, we had 30 guys on it and about 28 guys. And he broke his back in a car accident, really bad car accident going home. And so he was out. And the chief asked, anybody cook here? Because there was nobody else. There was no cooks available. We were on our own. And you know what was really great about that small of a motor lifeboat station? I said, yeah, I've cooked before. So they said, you're the cook. So I'd have to go and buy groceries. I'd take the chief and I'd go, and he'd buy it. He'd sign all the paperwork, and I'd buy the food. And you could come in any time of day and night, turn on the grill, throw on a burger or chicken or whatever you wanted. And if it was in the cooler, it was fair game, in the 3-door reach-in. And we had a small little commercial kitchen there, and it was great. We always had I always had lunch meat and different kinds of bread, and you could toast something, you could cook eggs, whatever you want. And that was always like that. So, but I was really fortunate. So at 21, I got out of the Coast Guard. I started cooking right away, and I met a couple people that were really good chefs, and one of them referred me to another chef that was actually the president of the Chefs Association, the ACF, in Portland, Oregon. And he says, I want an assistant. I want a young chef that I can train. And I said, okay. He says, my only rule is you got to join the ACF. And he hired me in December. And January 1 of 1974, I joined the ACF. And so in 74, I joined. And then he was saying, you're a veteran, aren't you? And I said, yes. He says, well, why don't we see about setting up an OJT? Because on the job training, the ACF has a program, but the veterans didn't. So we went to the veterans, and he set it up with the ACF. They wrote the curriculum, and 2 months later, I was on 18 months OJT. I was the first veteran to ever do the program in 1974, Vietnam veterans at that time. So I was the very first one. So
to utilize the GI Bill, kind of.
To use the GI Bill as on-the-job training for chef's training.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and I had to go to the local college and do, some of the supervisory management, nutrition, and other things to get certified. And that's how I started my career.
That is amazing. I know we got a couple more minutes here, Chef.
Yeah.
And if you could talk about the trophy, which is kind of cool, because I believe that trophy gets handed around.
It's
just
that's how I knew 1970 was the first one.
Because you have the trophy now.
And I have the trophy for a year.
Your name's on it. Just like
the trophy's about 4.5, 5 feet tall, and it has eagles on it on the bottom, and it has a big cup, and then it has a chef on top of the cup, and it's not real gold, but it looks golden in color, and it's got all the names. It starts out in 1970, and 2 plates. There's 4 plates on it. 2 of the plates are already filled, and I'm down about halfway on the 3rd plate.
Yeah, so they're going to have to add more plates someday.
Well, or change the trophy. That trophy was donated by one of the meat companies that serviced the casinos in that day. And
Wow.
Roger Lamb is the one that, and he was part of the Lamb family here. And they paid for the trophy. And, it's just an amazing thing. I get to keep it for a whole year. And it sits at the Blooming Bistro, where I mentor young adults that are in foster care. So
Yeah,
the
that's
one, our
that's
author
from St. Jude's.
yeah,
Yeah,
from
St.
St. Jude's Ranch.
Yeah.
And, he says, well, we're going to be a service. I can't even tell you. I've been on my whole life in service. I started a program here at Chef for Kids, feeding needy kids. 1 out of 5 kids went to school in Las Vegas hungry. When I found that out, I jumped in. I was one of the founding fathers with some other chefs, and we started feeding one at-risk school
At a time.
at a time.
And then
Now,
and then it went to
35 years later, we're at 13 schools that we feed at least one full breakfast. They get a full breakfast every day, but the chefs come out from the different casinos or restaurants and actually feed them a breakfast that's nutritious, hearty, and great. And we put little chef's or cook's caps on them, little chef's caps. And they get a snack program. Plus they get, it's okay to feed them, but you got to teach them also. So we have Nevada Cooperative Extension. We help supply 2 full-time and 1 part-time nutritionists to the school to actually work with the kids on how to eat better nutritionally, because they're at-risk schools. It's
Definitely.
not the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and the Jack in the Boxes. It's, hey, what's a mushroom look like? A lot of them never seen a mushroom. We can't understand that or fathom that. But in all actuality, a lot of them doesn't know what spring mix lettuce looks like and things that are healthy for them. So it's amazing. So,
it is.
I mean, service, yeah, we have a servant heart. You and I do, my friend. And when you asked me to think about coming on and doing a podcast, and I jumped right into it because, that's what I do.
Yeah,
I
well,
enjoy it.
It's awesome. And thanks to our guests and Chef,
Yeah.
if you want to put out any of our sponsors, with my, feel free to put out the VTRC.
Yeah, the Veterans Transition Resource Center. That's where I started doing pig outs. And then in 2017, they helped me get 100% disability after 41 years and 3 denials. Finally get my military disability.
Yeah, speaking of pig outs, your big smoker was down at the
Eagles
Lodge this weekend, this Saturday. I went down
Saturday.
there, had a great meal with you.
And
hung out, and then we had RJ down there, and
and
a bunch of
Dave Christensen and some of the volunteers here at the VTRC, Jim and Susie Hill, and they do wonderful work. And then all the volunteers that help with the Red Riders motorcycle group.
Red Riders motorcycle group.
Yeah, they're always supportive.
For
and the Eagles, the people there.
A great band. And, if you're missing out on some of these things, even, if you're in society and you're not a veteran, feel free to jump in on some of these things and come down and sponsor some of the, just come down and get a meal and hang out. It's such an awesome experience.
Yep. Had a full bar. So if that's your cup of tea, having a beer with a pulled pork sandwich, God bless it. It all goes to a good cause. So we help veterans here and their families, not just veterans. And
first responders.
We're going to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would just like to, thank Brian Colburn. He usually comes on. He's not going to be able to feed drop us today, which is Feed Drops is a great great little podcast to check out. He's actually, going in and checking out podcasts and giving them a grading and really kind of just helping them promote their stuff and that. So I call it feed dropping us. But we'll get him back on to feed drop some of our stuff live next time. But I want to say thanks to the PTSD Foundation of America, Warrior Bill Foundation, Recon Chief Incorporated, and my podcast, Combat Vet Vision. It's such a great thing. And thanks Captain Kelly for being on deck today, and everybody else in between. Any last words?
No, man. I wish everybody bon appetit.
Strength and honor. Until next time.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way, together forever, that's for sure.